He is. Da da da. Yeah, I'm doing that. So yeah, a quick bit of like notes about this. It's not much. It's where is it? There it is. Woo, just getting my little thing up. About this is that I heard about this, and I think I watched a couple of episodes, not much. Not to the point of like being like, oh yes, I get this, and did this in its entirety. No, I did somewhat know about it, and somewhat is a loose. I did somewhat hear about it, and then I watched a couple of episodes, roundabout up to, I think, when I stopped it at first, was when it was at the point of, what was it? I think the second sign of like, Invincible's dad proving to be like, okay, something's off. And I did have some people tell me about the comics, about stuff that's already maybe happened and stuff that might happen. I also saw originally, I think I originally saw up to, no, that happened before. Anyway, it's either the first battle where he goes in and goes to everyone, or the second one when he sort of puts the demon goes away. But I like this. This is fun. This is really good as a show. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about with its ideologies, which I also love. That ideology side of it is really interesting to think about. Like the efficacy, the ideologies of all the characters, I think will be like interesting. So like, I don't know if to like think about like the idea, which I'm going to bring up now. So with Viltrumites, they sort of have this ideology of sort of like a perfection, because like they have this in this way of like, not, I wouldn't say entirely, they do have a bit of a might makes right, but they have a way of like being like, okay, you have to be perfect, you have to be this sort of way. And if you look at the Viltrumites fighting each other, it's just survival. It's that sort of like survival nature of like, if you survive, like, I think it's like the idea of like, the victors write the battle. The victors write the results. It's that ideology of like, if you win, if you survive, well, you won. Who cares about the rest? Who cares about what you had to do to get to that point? You see this when, which is the most interesting clip, and I've seen it, not in context, but I've seen that clip before. But now seeing it in context, it sort of like, it makes it interesting. It sort of shows that sort of conflict of two people sort of at this point trying to fight, trying to create a battle. Not two people, a whole country fighting to create the strongest race, which I don't know if it is or isn't, but it is sort of like a more extreme version of like a eugenics sort of thing. I don't know much about it. The idea, not the show. The show I kind of get. But it's sort of like the idea of like trying to fight and kill what they perceive as the weaker of the group, the weaker of the pack. And fighting and fighting and fighting. And it's really interesting. And definitely during the final battle, because you have two ideologies that I like. You have that ideology, which is the idea of like, if you do it and you kill someone, it's like, oh, you're just stronger. Which in our society is like, oh no, you can't do that. You might be physically stronger. You might have a way to get around this, but that doesn't prove that you have a right to like kill a person. Compared to the other thing that I like is, and I think a lot of shows also have this, but I like this idea that it turns them into this villain. The idea of like, it's the same thing that's brought up in season 2, but I'm gonna bring that up again season 2 today, tomorrow. Not during this stream for the people who are watching the stream, but that's besides the point. That will come today, tomorrow. Don't worry about that. But if you look at some, especially things like dogs live so less. Like, this is the one thing that I always claim. I don't want to live forever. Afterlife exists or not. If you live forever, and there's like a video on like YouTube explaining like, oh, one person stops aging and like lives forever, goes through multiple families. The idea, if you can live for hundreds of thousands of years, is insane. Because think about it. If you look at 100 years, which is usually how long most people live, you have a job, you have a career. Even if you double that, 200 years, your body's so healthy, and like just take the 100 years and take the ratio of like aging from 0 to 100. Take that sort of cycle. That sort of thing. It's not like you're gonna just age. I'm just going to take that into fact because I know that some fantasy stuff where it's like, oh, you will never die, but you would also maybe live as dust. But I'm not going to do that because that's a bit... But if you still had the prime and you still had your body the way it's supposed to be, and then you live, at a certain point, you meet your friends when you're a kid, you grow up with your friends, you meet someone, you have a life together, and then after 100 years, because they don't live, only you do, they die. And I like how this show looks at that and looks at Omni-Man, that's the name, yay, and looks down. Because it's not that he sees him as sort of like horrible or like there's some way. He will literally outlive every single person there. And that idea, that whole thing, I absolutely love of him just being like, I'm not looking down at you as an individual. I'm just looking down because like you'll live to 100 and I will still be nowhere near close. That's why I like the horrifying thing where it's like, oh, she was a nice pet. Are you kidding me? Are you insane? Who goes up to a person being like, yes, pet? Besides if you're doing like a cutesy nickname thing. But like, geez. It is the most horrifying thing to hear someone say. Calling a human being nothing more than like a sort of like pet. But if you see how long he will live, it kind of, well, it doesn't, but it kind of, you can see why he thinks this way. And it's horrible. It's fucked up. But it's interesting of that sort of way, that sort of ideology. It's interesting to think, like, how would someone go to that point? It's really interesting and really fun, in my opinion, how someone will go there. So, yeah, this is a very complicated sort of show. With, like, it also has the superhero stuff. It has, like, the superhero team, which I'm fine with. Having the superhero stuff alongside, like, this sort of, like, thing that Omni-Man in its ideologies is going through with, like, sort of a dark Superman, which I love. Is really fun, really entertaining, and absolutely 100% worth watching. I was like one of those things where I kind of didn't know how to get, because I'm watching Prime now. I was not watching Prime for the longest time, so that's why I didn't watch this. And then season 2 came out, I'm like, I feel like I need to watch it. And then someone was like, season 3, I need to watch it now! But yeah, it's really fun, really interesting, and yeah, absolutely entertaining. So yeah, I 100% think this is amazing. I hope you enjoyed. And finally, good night.